Hey guys. Um, so I guess this is working now. This is the beginner's guide. I've heard great things about this. I have not tried it. Let's try it. Make sure audio is on. It sounds like I'm somewhere outside. Maybe a nice fire, waves, the beach, maybe. Oh yeah, that's on. All right, let's go.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide.
All
My
right,
name is Davey Reedon. I wrote The Stanley Parable, and while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today
it does.
I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011.
All right.
We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda.
Mhm.
Now, these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made. It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way. And mostly it's just Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level. And of course, it destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is.
All right.
And that's exactly what we're going to do here. So, it's 2008, Coda starts making these games, and he never releases any of them. He doesn't put them onto the internet, he just makes them and then immediately abandons them and they sit on his computer forever.
This would be an
And I think he
interesting
really
Counter-Strike
understood this image
match.
of himself as a recluse.
Map.
At one point, he jokingly renamed his computer's
And that's the
recycling
best.
bin to Important Games Folder. So, this was just how he worked. He tended to crank them out one after the other without even really pausing to try to understand what he had just made, until suddenly one day, he just stopped. In 2011, that was it. He made his last game and then he hasn't made another one since. And that's why I've taken this opportunity to gather all of his work together, is because I find his games powerful and interesting, and I'd like this collection to reach him, to maybe encourage him to start creating again. And if the people like you who play this also happen to find his work interesting, then I'm sure it'll just send that much stronger of a message of encouragement to Coda. So thanks for joining me on this. If you have a
All right.
particular interpretation that I haven't mentioned here, or if you just need to get in touch, you can email me at daveywreden@gmail.com. Okay, that's about it for introduction. Let's take a look at Coda's first proper game. As each game is loading, I'll show you the date that it was completed. This first one was made in November 2008.
All right. So this is a collection of his friends' games that he never finished. That for some reason he stopped making games then. Oh God!
Whisper machine active. Shift to structure imminent.
I don't think that was meant to scare me, but it did.
This game is called Escape from Whisper, and it's one of the more generic games you'll see from Coda.
All right then. Uh, what is the whisper machine?
Security call breached. Hostile alien life forms inbound.
It kinda looks like this game was abandoned mid-development. For instance, you have this gun, which you'd think would indicate that there are supposed to be monsters or enemies somewhere, but then clearly there are no enemies anywhere. You can't even reload the gun when you run out of bullets. But ultimately we don't really know. Maybe Coda thought that actually it was complete the way that it is. And I think that we should talk about his games for what they are. rather than for what they're not.
Enemy force neutralized. Begin ship evacuation.
Alright.
I love how you can see the bottom of the universe from this room.
So that's what it looks like. Tell the scientists they can stop looking, we know what it looks like. That is kind of neat though. And that's really pretty, I wouldn't mind using that as wallpaper. Oh. I guess I can go through this. This is a dead end. Yeah.
Apparently this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
Oh, thank you. Alright.
Okay, this is the part that's interesting. The game has this narrative about the Whisper Machine and how it has to be turned off, and then you get to the engine room.
Alright.
Hey, you there, in the engine room. You could save us all. That beam is powering the Whisper Machine. We could disrupt it by introducing a great enough heat signature. If your body could stop the beam. It's so much to ask, but for all of our lives, would you do it? Could you give yourself?
Should I? Yes, do it.
Let me pause here for a second. What you just experienced, stepping into the beam and then dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
What? Okay, that's weird. I like it, actually. This is really cool.
The beam causes you to start floating. And this is an important moment for him. Because yes, this is technically a glitch, but Coda identifies something human about it. Like how small it makes you feel in the face of this larger chaotic system. Or this floating could be the afterlife, a peaceful place, juxtaposed against all of the hysteria that you've just had to traverse. I don't even know. I have no idea what he was thinking, but what's clear is that after making this, something lodges itself in his brain. He wants to do more of these really weird and experimental designs. So he stops work on this and moves on to a stream of tiny little games that go in all sorts of directions.
It's really
Let's
beautiful.
go ahead and take a look at the first game he made after leaving this one behind.
Alright. Still November 2008. The past was behind her.
Yep, in this game you can only walk backwards.
What the fuck? Alright. That is actually kind of interesting.
So it's a short and relatively
But the
minimalist
future
experiment
could
combining
not be
motion
seen.
and narrative. It is less advanced than the previous game, but actually it seems to be more
Why does the
focused,
future
more
keep
complete.
changing?
Coda's trying to give it a unique voice rather than simply basing it on a pre-existing trope.
It's... I think it's interesting. Oh. This way, then. When she stops and looks, it becomes clearer. But if the future is always behind her, how will she find the strength to confront it?
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that. which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick. Okay, next one.
I actually really like that. You're now entering. What?
And that's it. Okay, the meaning
Okay.
of this game won't be clear just yet. Please be patient with me for a few more games, and I promise you'll see what makes it interesting.
Alright then.
Oftentimes, Coda would put bizarre titles like this one at the start of his games.
Nonsense in every direction.
I wish I'd known him at the time that he was making these early games. He would really only talk to me about his work as he was making it. Once he stopped work on a game, like, that was it. It was dead to him. And I don't agree with that at all, but what are you gonna do?
That's fair.
Once you've been slowed to an absolute crawl, the door at the top of the stairs opens. So why, if Coda's not showing these games to anyone, why bother opening the door at all? Well, to show you, I'm modifying the game here so that when you press enter, it'll bring you back up to full speed so you can enter the door for yourself.
No, I want to go up like this. No, I'm not. Did he actually mean them to go up there?
A room that's warm and nice and filled with little ideas for games.
Game where you have to scream into a mic every 15 seconds to keep playing. A key in
Coda
one
would
game
often
unlocks the
tell
door
me
in a
that he
completely
didn't mind
separate
if people thought of him as cold or distant. He said that
walk
he
around
knew that
talking
he was
people
actually
down
a vibrant and
and pursuing
compassionate
their
person,
dreams.
but that it takes time to really see that. It can be a very slow climb to get there.
You're the queen guessing your jewels while your kingdom is destroyed. Place the camera fueling an advertisement. Alright. Ready, set, fish. What does that mean? I'm an empty room.
Well, this is new for Coda. It's an actual puzzle. Go ahead and see if you can solve it. Don't forget that solution, because we're going to see this puzzle again soon. We're gonna see it a lot.
3 little dots there. Okay then. It's actually an interesting solution to a puzzle, I think.
So that seems to be it, right? You walk down a corridor, you solve the puzzle, you get to the end. Simple enough. Alright, now I'm going to modify the game again, so that when you press enter, it'll remove all of the walls from this room.
Wait, what the? There's a lot more to it.
How about that? There was more to it than we had any way of knowing. I actually find it funny that this game comes after the Stairs game, since they essentially convey the opposite idea. So, in the Stairs game, a dull exterior concealed a rich interior. And then, in this level, a dull interior hides this fantastic outer world. Either way, I think that the point is the same, is that most of the time you don't get to know what you're missing, or even that you're missing anything. That's not your role as a player. So if your role here is not to understand, then what is it?
What is the role? You're now.
Aha. So, this, combined with the entering game from earlier, tells us that Coda believes his games are connected somehow. It could even be that the stairs game and the puzzle game are literally connected in between this and the entering game. There's a bigger picture that all of his games are meant to play a role in, some larger meaning that we won't be able to grasp until we've seen all of them. And once we have, we can step back and start to understand what exactly that bigger picture is.
Very interesting now. This is actually really fascinating. The Great and Lovely Descent. Alright.
Let's talk about video game development for a second. Every video game runs on what's called an engine, which determines what the game can and cannot do. So in other words, the engine is a set of tools for game development. To make all of these games, Coda is using an engine called Source. Like all engines, Source has certain things that it does well, and it has certain things that it does poorly. One of the things that it does very well is boxy linear corridors. That's why so many of Coda's games are set in these large, flat, empty rooms, is just because he's working with what the engine does well. The tools available to the creator shape what kinds of creative work they're going to end up making. You might consider paying attention to the architecture in Coda's games, to notice how they seem to stem from an engine that's very good at producing linear, boxy corridors.
This Source is really, really good at boxy corridors. I have played a lot of Source games, and I can attest to that. This is... Alright.
This prison, funny enough, in Coda's original design, the doors stayed shut for a full hour before letting you go. If you don't mind, I think we're gonna skip that. This is something that he and I used to argue about a lot. You know, whether a game ought to actually be playable, whether it means anything if no one can get through it. And I would always defend that, you know, all this work goes into the game, why not make it playable and accessible? And so we just got into heated arguments over it, and there was one time that after one of these conversations, he went home, and a day or two later, he sent me a zip file entitled Playable Games that was full of hundreds of individual games, each of which was just an empty box that you walked around in and nothing else. Believe me, I played every single one of those just to find out if there was like a gag hidden somewhere. There wasn't.
I think he has a point there. I mean, game doesn't have to be playable to mean anything. Doesn't really have to be. Doesn't really have to mean anything to be playable. In fact, a lot of games are very, very playable.
It's the puzzle again, with the exact same solution as the last time.
They just aren't very
There's still no clear indication of what makes this puzzle
meaningful.
so special that Coda is going to return to it over and over. But I promise I'll share with you my interpretation very shortly. Here, Coda begins using a kind of dialogue system that he fashioned out of the engine's chat capabilities. Use the 1, 2, 3 buttons on your keyboard to respond.
I don't know, let's go with 1. You have to get through a puzzle with 2 doors and switches. Yeah. Tell us the solution. I don't remember how I solved it. I'm trying to remember, but I can't. I didn't solve it. Someone else let me in. Let's go with 3. I'm curious. We do. We need to get there. Stan is the most important thing in the world. We have to escape this prison. There must be an ending. There is nothing I want more. Okay. Was there a puzzle? Yeah, there was. Where she find the blank space between the doors to be far more interesting. Have you seen it yet? Why would it? It was a little bit of a. It was a little weird. It was all just kind of black with fog, and I did find that a bit interesting. It's certainly interesting. In fact, it's just been
So we make
black
one last descent
with
down
fog
to the
with the
final
same
floor
doors
of the
both
level.
times.
It's a lamppost.
Yeah, this.
Okay, I can't tell you quite why, but for some reason, Coda fixates on this lamppost. It's going to appear at the end of every single one of his games from here on out. I'll tell you what I think. I think that up to this point, you know, he's been making really strange and abstract games with no clear purpose, and maybe you can only float around in that headspace for so long. Because now he wants something to hold on to. He wants a reference point. He wants the work to be leading to something. He wants a destination, which is what this lamppost is. It's a destination. We're going to see it in the work as well. His games are just going to become a lot more cohesive, a lot more fully developed, with more of a clear idea behind them. And as we go, that idea will get clearer and clearer and clearer.
Alright. I'll see you again, lamppost. Unless the guy was lying and the lamppost never appears again. Ah! No, but I'm quite enjoying this. This game is connected to the internet. As you walk around, you can leave notes. All notes you see are left by other players. Nice room. not. Well, I like it.
So first off, I'm sure you can deduce this, but this game is not connected to the internet. All of the
yeah.
notes that you're going to see have been written by Coda.
How
This
do
was
you beat
actually
this
the
game?
first game of his that I ever played. This was shortly after I
No
met
point
him
to this.
at a weekend game jam in Sacramento, where I grew up. I saw him working on this very level.
My
It
dad
was
was
just
born there.
so different from anything that anyone else was
Whoa.
doing. So right
Holy
away I
shit.
was like, I have
Oh,
to be
wow.
friends with this person.
This is
In
big.
retrospect, I think I was probably a bit too pushy, trying to get his attention.
Can you guys hear me?
I was over enthusiastic, but he was very gracious about it and very patient with me.
Hello.
And I cooled off eventually.
Reasonable.
Look, feel free to skip over any of these notes if they're not doing anything for you. Nothing extra is going to happen
Everyone
if you
read
read all of
this.
them.
Yeah, but I want to.
Either
read.
way,
Yay.
to me they convey a sense of loneliness. I see this
makes me
person
sad.
who's filled with thoughts and feelings and beliefs
How do you
and
see-
has no way to express them except as
Define
scattered and
fun.
unheard voices in a game that wasn't meant to be played.
Balls.
But it's ironic, isn't it, that in playing this game
Those
and
are
seeing
wood,
how
grass,
alone
and
Coda
concrete.
often felt, that we get to know him better and actually kind of connect with him. And I have to be honest with you, this idea is really seductive to me. That I could just play someone's game and see the voices in their head and get to know them better and have to do less of the messy in-person socializing. I could just get to know you through your work. I think this is why I always liked Coda's games so much, is because it felt like they let me have that connection. I felt as though he was inviting me personally into his world. And then I feel less lonely too.
Wait, what? It's... See, Coda sounds like a very interesting person. I don't think it opens, dude. It's really big, and there are a lot of these finger hand types jump together. All right. Hey, don't talk about me that way. Oh, circles. I do wonder. There must be a reason for it, though. Why do they need a reason?
At the end of this level, we're going to see the puzzle again. And here, I'll tell you what I think the puzzle means. Each of these games represents an idea that was on Coda's mind at the time that he was making it. And the puzzle is a way of closing the door on a previous chapter of his life before moving on to the next one. In each of his games, after exploring a theme that, he might find difficult, Coda can then place this puzzle that he knows has a reliable solution, he understands exactly how it works, and so it gives him a simple mechanism for moving on. And because there's this dark area between the doors, a space between spaces, before you move on, you get to pause. Just for a moment, a few seconds to reflect on and let go of the events that led you here. To step back and connect the pieces together. To grasp at that elusive bigger picture.
What's with the voices in the background? Why are you having so much difficulty talking? Speak, 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 speak.
Okay, this one is tough. It's gonna kind of just spin its own wheels for a
Porn
few minutes.
stars die
Hang
too.
with it.
Actually, that's a really nice wall design, in my opinion. Oh.
See, like, this is it. The whole game. And there's nothing that's particularly interesting about it. You just walk to the end of a hallway. Except, for some reason, Coda gets really fixated on this prison that has all of this modern furniture. And I don't know why, but he decides he needs to revisit this prison. He's gonna start over, use the same assets, turn it into something else. Okay, cool. Here's version 2.
Oh. It's, the furniture ought to go into the center of the room. One. Why not? Okay, now how about along the wall then? Giant picture of the horse. 10 stoves. Why not? No. I think we should riot this room then. We'll see when we open this baby up. Get. Yeah. I'm thinking 10 by 12. Oh. And a table. You need a table. Where exactly are you doing this from? For sure none of my choices are making a difference. Tables were invented in 1935.
There's a bit more to this one, but still it's not really communicating anything. It's kind of just weird for weirdness' sake. So okay, he throws it out and starts over. This time he comes at the prison idea from a different direction.
Hello, please walk forward. This guide will enable you to escape any prison environment. Follow the instructions carefully. Take care that you remember each step. First, click on this table. Good. Go over to the photo frame and click to turn it slightly. Photo frame. Oh, this one? Now turn the floor lamp in this room off, then turn it back on. Now go to the left side sofa. This one. Finally, touch the shelves. That's it. Arrow prison, the escape will now open. Return to start and be taken back to your prison. What?
And of course, now the table is gone and you can't begin the chain of events to escape. Here's a version where there are no bars, but you can't actually get to the well. And then a version where the inside of the prison is the outside and the outside is the inside.
What?
Let me just blink you real quick through a few more of these. I mean, he really unloaded on this prison idea. There's nearly a dozen of them. Personally, I think it's awful to watch this. To see a person basically unraveling through their work. And for what? Like, at what point do you just go, maybe there are game ideas other than this prison that I could be working on? But Coda doesn't have that voice telling you to stop. That particular mechanism of defense against yourself. Without it, you just spiral. And so he keeps going and going and going and going and going. And then he hits on something. And he likes it. And that's it. He's done. He stops making prisons. This is the very last version of the prison game that he created. And the reason I think it works is that the prison is not actually in it.
Oh. I'm you from after you escaped the prison. You're me. So you're trapped in this prison too.
It's a conversation. And so this is what Coda wants, is to be able to talk to someone, to share what's on his mind, and to get some good advice from someone who knows. But the irony is that even in this scenario, you're still talking to yourself. You know, all of these games so far are Coda talking to himself.
Do you feel any different? Sometimes I'm scared I'll get out and things will be exactly the same as before. Well, from another position, I did not. I did not get full. I don't know how I got out.
I can see why he considers this a fitting conclusion to the prison games. After all of the obsession and frustration, just to be told by someone you can trust that things are going to be okay. Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be pretty nice.
So what would it look like if Coda wanted to make a game about talking to someone other than himself? To me, this environment is meant to represent Coda's puzzle, with the two doors on either side and a dark transitional space between.
Oh, if you haven't cleaned this house myself, how miserable that would have been. Everyone knows lonesome parents make lousy homes.
You'll notice that the quality of the art is a step up from previous games, including this new and improved chat system, which he started using from this point on. From here on out, he begins putting much more effort into the visual polish of his work, and this particular game took 2 months to create as a result.
Bedroom. As the bathroom. That's a nice bed. All the details matter. Sure. Dear, looks like someone spilled a drink over the... Compared to Sharon, it's with a cheesy personal insight. Aw. Sure. There, the back up. Perfect. Now then, how did you come and clear these?
After the intense set of prison games, this house cleaning level almost feels like cleansing. It's the moment after a particularly difficult or traumatic experience where you just need to let it sit and digest inside of you, and eventually cohere into something meaningful.
That's fair.
I know that Coda really liked this game. Of all of his work, actually, this was the only one that he called me up to ask me to come over and look at it. This was during a period of a few months where he was, like, grossly happy all the time. Just walked around with a constant smile on his face.
That's kind of cheesy. I think that's makes some sense, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Thanks. These
I'm
pillows.
glad he made this. I'm glad he found some peace.
It is really nice, actually. It's like, yeah, you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but it's
Of
nice.
course, it can't last.
Aw.
The music stops, your companion is gone, it's time to leave. The door at the top of the hill is now open as well. Again, you can't stay in the dark space for too long. You just can't. You have to keep moving. It's how you stay alive.
I think it makes sense. Even if it is really comfortable. Kinda can't just stay there forever.
Which is the whole point of
Oh,
the
wow.
puzzle doors, right? That sooner or later you have to pick up and move. I really thought that was the point of it. This
Items you
one
love
gets
at
a bit
Memphis.
goofy.
Your friends, the people you know, they'll look at you and think, wow, this person is a better human being than I am. Right now, if you think of how halfway your own life, you know who's so well developed as a person that they make you feel disgusted with yourself, compared to whom you feel useless, selfish, ungrateful. I intend to make you into that person, compared to whom you feel is within. How do we do it? How do we effortless? This is easy. It is so easy. It is so
About halfway
easy.
through the game, the perspective shifts.
Oh God.
And you play as the teacher. And suddenly, you discover that your teacher is just as bigoted and afraid as you are. Oh, and also you can move around the classroom now.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. Call from inside. Being alone must be awful. Thank goodness all of you perceive me as being wise and intelligent. Drinking is not hurting my life. If you are torturing yourself trying to find the right solutions for your life, you're not doing it right. You understand that you won't be happy until you love me? This is for you. Seek out only one thing. What is the easiest, simplest path forward? Yeah, sister kind of gross. And you want to do some ecstasy? Yeah. This is actually, a lot of this seems kind of dark. There's no truth. There's no path. Nobody exists on purpose. Nothing happens for a reason. We're all going to die. I can't wait for Rick and Morty season 3. What if I'm not a good teacher? Do what is easiest. Do what is simplest. Feel what is true. Holy shit, you guys, something is coming out of the back of the room. Look out. No. It's coming for you. It's going to destroy you. Nothing. Oh, fuck, I didn't mean to say that.
I felt pretty hard for this one. I feel like it's one of the most relatable experiences that you can have.
Kind of is, yeah.
Assume that some other person is perfect and totally fulfilled in every way, and completely miss all of the little flaws that make them painfully human. I think about this game a lot these days.
I liked it. I really liked that one.
This one took a lot longer than all the others for Coda to make. It was 4 months between this and the last one. That's twice as long as it took him to make any other game before this, and it's not like it's particularly complex, so I remember I found that a little strange at the time.
Alright, the performance is beginning. The scene will be playing as me. We are at a gathering of professionals. First, start out leaning against this wall. Good. Stay right there. Run across that room. In this chair. Professional photographer of animals. It's your dream to study. You won't let her. It's your one chance to learn something from her. To gain something. To succeed. Go on. Say something. That's not a conversation. You need to actually converse with her. Be a human being. Do it again. Boom. Oh, that's not what I said to her at all. You're completely missing the tone of the conversation. I deserved, but I knew what I wanted. I was confident. For some reason, it was just that one moment, but I was confident. Maybe it's that you need a better feel of the setting. There are a lot of people around us. I've used some props to work with. These codes that bounce when you touch them will represent the people nearby. Raise how important this was to me. Everything was riding on this. I want to try something. Okay, yes.
The game ends with this eerie premonition of what's going to happen next in Coda's life. The solution to social anxiety, to fears of having to perform and having to chase success, the answer for Coda is to withdraw, to hide himself away. Which is what leads to scenarios like the stairs that slowed you down several games ago, where it just becomes harder and harder to access Coda's inner landscape because he keeps retreating. He just keeps backing away from possible connections to anyone other than himself. And to be honest, I didn't consider it very healthy when I first played this game. You know, it looked to me like he was trying to justify the idea of just disconnecting yourself from the world. And that wasn't what I wanted for him or for his games. Because I feel like a lot of his games are inviting me to connect with this person, to bring him closer. But what can you do? After this, Coda went off and took another 5 months to make a new game.
(2010) Mobius Trip. To play this game properly, you must keep your eyes closed. Click to begin. Alright. I don't... What?
You should probably open your eyes if you haven't already. It's pretty much impossible to solve otherwise. And there is a solution, by the way.
God damn it. It's blind. Nope, I can't see anything. There's a giant door, and then my vision went black. Alright. It says 3 dots again that I always notice. I'm going to be killed by that door. What's going on? Can we do anything? Why did I go on? trying to find the shields. Me too. Okay.
Alright, let me explain how you're supposed to do this. On either side of the room are elevators, which go up to an upper level. You have to go up, walk over to the person who's standing there, and then select dialogue option number 2.
Oh.
Like I said, I was getting concerned. First off, he's never been this explicit in his work about exactly what he's thinking. So where's that coming from? But then even weirder, his work has potentially stopped being an outlet for him. Not like he's having trouble iterating on ideas, but he literally just can't think of new ideas anymore. And in person, he was being a lot more distant than usual. Like, you know how sometimes a person will just deflect anything that you say in order to keep themselves disconnected all the time? It was that kind of thing. Here was the point in my relationship with Coda where I really started to wonder if he needed my help in some way. His games are going to get more desperate from here on out. After this game, it's almost 6 months before he finishes something new.
Never noticed the elevators thing. Oh.
If the last game featured Coda talking explicitly about his creative frustrations, this one turns it up to 11. Now, put yourself in my shoes playing this. Here's a friend whose work is exhibiting signs of struggle, frustration, anxiety, depression, even. And yet, still, he keeps making games. He keeps throwing himself into the grinder even when he clearly doesn't have the energy for it anymore. Why? What is it for? Because from my perspective at the time, and just what I knew of him, this was a result of how isolated he was. He was in his own little bubble, just sitting at his computer all day, not really showing these games to anyone, not releasing them onto the internet, and so he didn't have anyone outside of himself to connect with. He had no outlet to ground himself on.
That's weird.
You can't talk yourself out of loneliness. It doesn't work that way. You can't be the
It
one
doesn't.
writing both the questions and the answers. Then there's no movement. Then there's no circulation. If all of your anxieties are being channeled into your work, then if the work ever fails, you have no backup and you're just going to crash. Seeing this game at the time that he made it, it looked really unhealthy to me. I was watching him do this to himself, and I hated it. I hated seeing him so trapped. It's like, video games are not worth this amount of suffering. This is someone I really cared about, and I used to get so much joy out of seeing him create. For him to suddenly become angry and frustrated like this, it was the worst thing for me. I don't know. This is what I felt at the time. I don't know how else to explain it. I wanted it to stop more than anything. I had never felt so rotten. I needed more than I had ever needed anything for this to stop. But it didn't stop.
I guess the Steam
After
servers are
finishing
back up.
this one, Coda takes another 7 months and comes up with a new game.
The machine. There's the machine. It's waiting for you now. You can begin the interrogation. Okay. Just be warned that someone called the press. They have to pay attention on this one. Also, one more thing that you should know about the machine, it called itself Coda.
And of course,
We stop.
it's the machine.
This is... want to destroy the machine. I don't know what the machine is. Oh look, it's the stage again. What the? What? Okay. Yeah, I guess this is happening. Do I actually have to destroy it all? That might be a bit difficult.
So now the work is becoming self-destructive. And I'll tell you, at the time that I first played this game, shortly after he made it, here's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking that code is stuck in his own head, and that it's having a very negative effect on him, and that all he needs to do is just start showing his work to people, to get some actual feedback on his games. It might get him out of isolation. And so, as I'm thinking this, I realized that I could be the one to initiate it. Because it would never occur to Coda to start actively soliciting feedback, so what if I did it for it? If he could see the difference it would make to have more actual conversations with other human beings, would that bring him out of his mental spiral? Would it give him confidence in himself? Would it bring meaning back into his work?
It might. The way you're talking about it, I'm going to guess that the answer is not as you hoped it would be.
So I started showing Coda's work to people. I took this one, and the islands which you just played, the theater, the notes, the house cleaning game, and some of the prison escape games. I brought them to people that I knew and trusted. I asked their opinions. And the great part is that they really loved his games. You know, the point of it all was just to give him some external reference point, but they genuinely loved his work. There was nothing for him to be afraid of.
Put down your weapon. Okay, guess I can't do anything.
Can you see why I felt like this was the right thing to do? Because it's the thing that I always feel like I need, to be told that my work is good, that I am good. When someone really connects with a thing that I've made, when they see themselves purely in my work, there's nothing that feels better. And I got to give that very same feeling to my friend. I did something... I really felt like I'd done something good, like I was a good person. I felt like there was a friend who was in trouble and was unhappy and maybe didn't like themselves, and I could fix it. If I could give him this gift, maybe I could fix the problem. When they told me how much they enjoyed his games, it was the best feeling. It was the absolute best feeling. It made me feel so happy. So beautifully, beautifully happy. So anyway, Coda finishes this game, and then really he just kind of takes off for a while. So this is June of 2011, and I didn't hear anything from him for several weeks, I guess. And so out of nowhere, one day I get an email, and it's got a private link to a new game of Coda's. This one is called The Tower, and to my knowledge, it's the last game that Coda ever made. So let's take a look.
The Tower.
And this is where I have trouble saying anything meaningful about Coda's work. Because more than anything else, the tower just feels distant. It feels like it's trying to distance itself from the world. It's a very cold game. this room actually has a maze in it. Except that all the walls of the maze are invisible. And then every time you touch one of the walls, there's this awful flashing and noise, so the experience is really miserable. The game goes beyond not being meant to be played, it actually seems to despise the player for trying to play it at all. But I do want to show you the rest of the levels, so when you're ready to continue, press enter and I'll put a bridge over the maze.
That is just the making of a rage game right there.
And to be fair, it's not like this is the first game that's needed some modification to be playable. Like the house cleaning game. You know, that one used to actually loop the cleaning chores and you just cleaned a house forever. I had to cut it off so that you could exit the house and the game would actually end. But that game had an idea that it was actually trying to communicate. What's the deeper idea behind the invisible maze? The only way past this challenge is to randomly guess the 6-digit code. Like the invisible maze, it's frustrating to me, because it's the opposite of everything else that Coda has made. It doesn't encourage thought or engagement. It doesn't ask anything of me, except a lot of my time. If I could have reached him during this time, then maybe I could have asked him, but I couldn't. I still don't really understand why this is here. I'll put the code on the ground for you here, though, so that we can move on.
That would probably take a lot of guesses.
The switch to open this door is actually on the other side of the door, meaning that it's literally impossible to solve from this side. So even if you somehow brute forced your way through the first 2 challenges, and you got to this point, there's actually just no way to progress. And it's scary for me, the idea of Coda cutting himself off entirely, just saying, you know, that's it, that's the end of the conversation, not giving me any way to fix the problem. I feel like a failure, I guess, when I can't fix the problem. But I can open this door for you, so let me do that. Was I a failure for not understanding this game? I mean, I don't know why I would be. It's not like everything needs to have a solution, but I feel it somehow. I feel like I failed, and I don't understand why. I remember, it's June of 2011, I'm playing this for the very first time, and as I'm playing, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know this person. I have no idea who this person is. It wasn't the guy I knew, it wasn't my friend. I had come to so many conclusions from looking at all of his work up to this point, and then suddenly none of them... I had been trying to, though, that was the thing. For years I was trying to get to know him, to understand who he actually was and what he stood for. I asked him so many times to please just tell me what his games mean to him. I asked him please to tell me what the 3 dots mean. And he wouldn't.
I do wonder what the 3 dots mean, because I kept seeing those over and over again. Isn't like...
I just felt so strongly that if I could have connected with him, that if I could have somehow made his work my own, that I would finally be once and for all happy. It was that I needed to see myself in someone else. I needed to be someone other than me. But he stopped and left. And it felt somehow like I had failed.
I have no idea what is going on upstairs, or if you guys could hear that, but if so, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure my dog is just running around.
I'm the reason that you stopped making games, aren't I? It's because of what I did. I poisoned it for you.
Yes.
I don't think I ever told you this, but when I took your work and I was showing it to people, it actually felt... it felt as though I were responsible for something important and valuable. And the people who played them, they treated me like I was important. They really listened and cared about what I had to say. Even though I was showing your work, I felt good about myself. Finally. For a moment, while I had that, I liked myself.
Yeah? Hang on. This is,
And then you stopped, and I didn't have anything left to show people. I just had to be with myself. And as soon as that happened, there was no feeling at all. Nothing. Less than nothing. What does that mean? I'm afraid that I did something really stupid because I don't like myself. That's why I'm releasing this collection of your work, is because I haven't been able to find any other way to reach you. I've tried everything. And so a part of me has hope that if I put this compilation out into the world, and if I put my name on it, that maybe enough people will play it so that it'll find its way to you, so that I can tell you that I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. If I apologize to you truly and deeply, will you start making games again? Please, I need to feel okay with myself again. And I always felt okay as long as I had your work to see myself in. I mean, is something wrong with me? Because I know that I did an awful thing, and I'm doing it again right now. Like, I'm showing people your work, but I can't stop myself from doing it. That's how badly I need to feel something again, like I'm an addict. There has to be something wrong with me. Can I apologize? What if I tell you I was wrong? Will that work? Will that fix it? I don't know. I don't think it will, but there's nothing else that I can do. Just tell me what you want. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please, start making games again. Please help me. Please give me some of whatever it is that makes you complete. I want whatever that wholeness is that you just summoned out of nothing and you put into your work. You were complete in some way that I never was. I want to know I want to know how to be a good person. I want to know how not to hate myself. Please. I'm fading, and all I want is to know that I'm going to be okay. more love, more praise, more people telling me that I'm good. Always more. It's like a disease. Solution. I guess if someone had told me ahead of time that he just really enjoyed making prison games, maybe I wouldn't have thought he was so desperate. I wouldn't have told so many people that he was depressed. Maybe he just likes making prisons. Even now, the disease is telling me to stop. Don't show people what a shitty person you are. They'll hate you. If I knew that my life depended on finding something to be driven by other than validation, what would that even be? It's strange, but the thought of not being driven by external validation is unthinkable. Like, I actually cannot conceive of what that would be like. What now? I think I need to go. And I'm sorry, because I know that I said that I would be here and I would walk you through this, but I'm starting to feel like I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot that I need to make up for. And so I'm just gonna... Okay.
This is this got kind of sad, yeah. Okay. Just that is a big maze.
Turn back from this cave.
For R.
You said, let me prove that I'm brave. Let me keep going. But the cave goes for miles and miles and miles. And you're so tired, but I know that you're strong. So turn back, turn back.
All right, this was a game. Um, I did enjoy this. I did enjoy this. It definitely did make me think a little, and it did get a bit sad there at the end. Um, I do kind of wonder how much of it was true. I'm not entirely sure. I'm gonna look into that, but I will say that I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. I haven't really experienced a game like this before. But I guess that it does have to end. Uh, okay, I just did a quick Google search. No, apparently it isn't. Um, so Coda's not real, which I kind of guessed because you can't exactly take someone else's games and release them without their permission because that's kind of illegal. um, it's very illegal. Coda could sue. No, Coda's not real. The person who made this is the person who made the Stanley Parable. Apparently, this game was supposed to be a kind of metaphor for emotional issues that he was dealing with after the Stanley Parable. I enjoyed it. It's certainly, I guess, kind of it's a good glimpse, I guess, into the mind of someone like that, into the mind of someone who lives off of other people's validation. And I imagine releasing the Stanley Parable, and then having people tell you, "Oh man, this is great," and then years later, it's still considered to be great, one of the greatest little weird indie games, at least. Pretty much everyone knows what the Stanley Parable is. I imagine that would definitely have some kind of an effect on someone's emotion, on someone's mind. Not necessarily good. But yeah. I guess I'll see you guys in some other video once I get this one uploaded. That's gonna take a while, because I don't think I'm gonna cut this up. I'm just gonna upload an hour and a half worth of footage. That sounds like a good idea. After I make sure that I don't have the desktop audio set down too low so you guys can actually hear what the hell the guy was saying, because for the most part I didn't say much. I mostly just let him talk, which I thought was fair because he talked a lot. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I have to go do dishes now. So, goodbye.